Welcome to the stories on Echoes of Revenge. Step into a world where love turns dangerous, revenge feels inevitable, and every story drags you deeper into the shadows of desire, betrayal, and the human heart. Let's begin today's story. The Hamptons Country Club's annual member showcase was Dad's masterpiece of social engineering, an afternoon where established families displayed their success to attract connections with even more established wealth. This year's event focused on celebrating what he called our family's growing influence in elite circles. Absolutely not the main entrance, Dad instructed firmly as our car approached the club's marble façade. Victoria, you'll use the service elevator. We can't afford any complications today. I nodded agreeably from the back seat, accustomed to my role as the family liability during prestigious gatherings. At 28, I'd learned to navigate these events from the periphery, avoiding the inevitable embarrassment my unconventional appearance might cause their carefully cultivated image. Victoria's still in that experimental phase, Mom explained apologetically to Mrs. Rothschild as they entered through the main doors. Artistic temperament, you understand. We didn't want her intensity to overshadow today's more sophisticated conversations. Experimental phase. While they pursued social advancement through charity committees and country club memberships, I'd been building Cipher Analytics, a data consulting firm that specialized in predictive modeling for clients who preferred absolute discretion about their business intelligence needs. The member showcase attracts such distinguished families, Dad announced proudly to Senator Mitchell, whose wife chaired the club's admissions committee. Real wealth, established influence. This is where meaningful connections develop between people who understand how society actually functions. How society actually functions. Through the service elevator and kitchen corridors, I made my way to the club's library, a quiet space where I could work remotely while they networked with what they believed were society's power players. Victoria's always been the creative one, my sister Sophia was explaining to the Vanderbilt heir, her tone suggesting artistic inclinations were charming but ultimately impractical. Big ideas, innovative thinking, but not quite ready for serious business relationships. Serious business relationships. Cipher Analytics had maintained absolute client confidentiality for 3 years, but our discreet operations meant my family never understood the scope or significance of the work I actually performed. We're hoping Victoria will eventually mature into something more traditional, Mom continued diplomatically to Mrs. Astor. Perhaps follow Sophia's example in nonprofit leadership or cultural philanthropy, something that contributes to society in more conventional ways. Conventional contributions to society. Our predictive algorithms had prevented market manipulations, identified money laundering operations, and exposed corporate fraud schemes that protected millions of investors' retirement funds. But algorithmic justice remained invisible compared to charity gala organization. My phone buzzed with an encrypted message from my assistant. Bloomberg terminal shows client list breach. Financial media confirming names. Immediate damage control required. Client list breach. 3 years of absolute discretion protecting our clients' privacy had just been compromised by a cybersecurity failure that would expose exactly who relied on Cipher Analytics for business intelligence that kept their enterprises functioning. Victoria's so quiet today, Sophia observed with sisterly concern to the assembled elite. Probably overwhelmed by this level of sophistication. She's not quite ready for these social complexities. Social complexities. In approximately 30 minutes, their understanding of complexity was about to encounter names from my client list that would redefine their perception of who held actual power in society. The afternoon progressed with my family orchestrating their most ambitious social climbing campaign yet. Sophia had engaged 3 senators' wives in discussions about cultural philanthropy, while my parents cultivated relationships with families whose names appeared regularly in Forbes and the Social Register. Sophia's fundraising for the Metropolitan Opera has been exceptionally successful, Mom announced to the Rockefeller Foundation representative. She understands how to coordinate between established cultural institutions and emerging philanthropic leadership. Established cultural institutions. While Sophia organized charity benefits that raised hundreds of thousands, Cipher Analytics had recovered stolen art worth over $2 billion by tracking international money laundering networks that funded illegal antiquities markets. The key to meaningful philanthropy is understanding traditional giving patterns, Dad explained authoritatively to oil executive Harrison Webb. Not these disruptive approaches that ignore how charitable organizations actually function most effectively. How charitable organizations actually function. Our forensic accounting had exposed embezzlement schemes in 12 major nonprofits, recovering diverted funds that actually reached intended beneficiaries instead of financing executive lifestyle upgrades. Victoria would learn so much from observing today's networking, Sophia suggested hopefully to the crowd. Seeing how real influence develops through patient relationship building rather than these technology shortcuts that promise instant credibility. Technology shortcuts. Through the library's floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see news vans arriving in the club's parking area. Unusual media presence that suggested someone had leaked information about Cipher Analytics' client roster to financial journalists. My phone rang insistently. Warren Buffett calling personally. Victoria, I just saw Bloomberg's breaking news about your client list. We need to coordinate our response immediately. Mr. Buffett, I'm actually at a family event. They don't know about our working relationship. Your family doesn't know you've been preventing corporate fraud schemes that could have destabilized entire market sectors? His confusion was obvious. They think I'm not ready for serious business relationships. Too experimental and unconventional for their social circles. Victoria, your predictive models saved Berkshire Hathaway approximately $4 billion in avoided bad investments. Half the Fortune 500 relies on your risk assessment algorithms. Through the library windows, I could see financial reporters establishing camera positions near the club's main entrance, their presence indicating that Cipher Analytics' client breach had become major business news. Your sister is doing wonderful work with cultural fundraising, Mrs. Vanderbilt was observing to my parents. Such important contributions to preserving traditional philanthropic values. Much more substantial than these modern technology consultants who claim to revolutionize established business practices. Technology consultants who revolutionize established business practices. In 15 minutes, their comfortable afternoon of elite networking was about to encounter exactly which technology consultant had been revolutionizing the business practices that kept their elite clients wealthy. Victoria's still learning that real influence requires working within established systems. Dad was explaining confidently to anyone who'd listen. Patience, respect for traditional methods, understanding how legitimate power actually functions in society. Legitimate power. The service elevator was about to become irrelevant when legitimate power arrived, specifically seeking the family member they'd hidden in the kitchen. The country club's serene networking was shattered by Warren Buffett walking directly through the main entrance, accompanied by Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and several other recognizable faces from the Forbes billionaire list. The presence of America's wealthiest business leaders transformed routine social climbing into an unprecedented gathering of actual economic power. Ladies and gentlemen, the club president announced with obvious astonishment, we have some unexpected distinguished visitors this afternoon. The dining room fell into complete silence as members tried to comprehend why the world's most successful investors had arrived unannounced at their social gathering. We're looking for Victoria Chin, Buffett announced clearly to the stunned crowd. Cipher Analytics founder. We understand she was attending today's event. Victoria Chin. The name echoed across the room as 300 country club members tried to identify whoever had earned personal attention from billionaires who rarely appeared together publicly. My family's confident networking expressions crumbled into horrified confusion as they realized these titans of industry were seeking the daughter they'd hidden in the service areas because she supposedly wasn't ready for sophisticated society. Victoria's. She's not prepared for this level of. Dad stammered weakly. Victoria's predictive algorithms have prevented approximately $12 billion in fraudulent investment schemes over the past 3 years, Gates interrupted diplomatically. Her risk assessment models are essential to how we evaluate major acquisitions and market investments. $12 billion in prevented fraud. While my family had been celebrating Sophia's charity fundraising, I'd been protecting the financial security that enabled their charitable giving in the first place. Where exactly is Victoria? Bezos asked with growing impatience. The Bloomberg report about her client list requires immediate coordination. Every major corporation needs her crisis management protocols activated. I emerged from the library's side entrance, still carrying my laptop and the encrypted files that had been compromised in today's data breach. "Gentlemen," I said calmly, "I'm here." Though my family felt I wasn't quite ready for today's social complexities. The silence was absolute as America's most powerful investors turned to observe the family dynamics that had hidden their most trusted advisor behind service elevators and kitchen access. "Victoria," Buffett said with obvious relief, "we need immediate damage control. Your client list includes 47 Fortune 500 CEOs who require coordinated response to today's disclosure." Their connections had just become worthless compared to mine. The aftermath was immediate and devastating. Within hours, every major business publication was covering the Cipher Analytics revelation. How the country club's hidden family member had been secretly advising half the Fortune 500 on fraud prevention and market manipulation detection. Sophia's cultural philanthropy achievements evaporated when Society pages revealed she'd spent years dismissing her sister as not ready, while that sister was protecting the wealth that funded elite charitable giving. Her nonprofit leadership positions became reminders of missed opportunities for major donations. Dad's networking strategy collapsed when fellow club members discovered he'd been hiding his family's connection to the business consultant who'd saved them billions in avoided investment disasters. His theories about traditional influence seemed misguided after billionaires personally retrieved his daughter from service areas. Mom's social climbing required complete revision when photographs emerged of Warren Buffett escorting me through the main entrance while she stood bewildered in designer clothes that suddenly looked very inexpensive. 6 months later, Cipher Analytics had expanded globally. My family learned to speak differently about my work. Not because they understood predictive modeling any better, but because dismissing billionaires' most trusted advisor made them look foolish rather than socially sophisticated. Sometimes service elevators lead to penthouse influence.